Let's get down to brass tacks. Welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. We're here ready to continue our journey through Elm Street with the great debates. We've got Rachel with me and Steven from Craven Something Scary. Guys, thank you so much for joining the panel tonight because I can't wait
Thank you for having
to
us.
talk about this one.
Yeah, thanks
I'm
for the
looking forward
invitation.
to it too.
Absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely. This will be a fun one. And to start right off, too, for the chat, thank you guys for joining us here tonight or New Year's Eve. We hope you have a fantastic New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and obviously a great 2025. And this is going to be a lot of fun. I've been kind of salivating for this one. And Stephen, I know you've got some really interesting thoughts that you'll be bringing tonight for this, as well as Rachel. So real quick to say hello specifically, we got RJ in the house. Thank you so much. Happy New Year's Eve to you as well. We've got Russell in the house. We've got Paula in the house. What's up, Jerry? Good to see you here tonight. Let's see. We got Keith's in the house. What's up, man? Good to see you. We got Gene in the house. We've got Val saying Happy New Year's, y'all. Thank you so much, Val. You're a very sweet lady. And thank you so much for the really amazing message too. Seriously, that was very, very kind of you. Zed's in the house. What's up, Zed? Spoof, a spoof. And I think I'm caught up. And thank you, Gene. Much appreciated. And we've got William in the house. What's up, William? Good to see you here. Welcome to the chat. Hope you enjoy this conversation. Saying Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you. Okay. So, as we have done with all of these episodes in the series, and by the way, if you haven't seen our previous episodes, check them out in the playlist. But we are going to be grading Wes Craven's New Nightmare through specific categories. We have 10 scored categories that will be chosen randomly by the wheel. Okay, so first, let's see what particular categories might be chosen tonight. We have, as a possibility, we have the directing of the film. We've got Freddy Krueger himself, the kills, the story of the film, and we also have 2 talking points. They will not be scored. That is the best scene in the film and the worst scene in the film. But the other possible scored categories are the final girl, the characters, the dreamscape, Freddy's makeup, the cinematography, the mythology, the atmosphere of the film, and the it factor. So those are what we're looking at, and the wheel will be picking them randomly. Real quick before we do bring up the wheel, just to say hey to Jeff. Jeff just jumped in saying good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. Thank you so much. Much appreciated, man. We got Wayne jumping in. Hope you're doing well. All right. And anyone else that's jumping in, welcome. David. Hey, David. Good to see you. Okay. Let's get ready to do this. This is going to be a lot of fun. So we're going to bring up the wheel, And Stephen, we're going to have you start off leading
Ooh,
whatever category is chosen. Okay, so
okay.
we have our wheel there. So let's see what we get, my friend. All right,
I'm ready.
here
Yeah,
we go.
let's go.
Aha, there we
Ooh.
go. Okay. You know, can I just say something? Now this wheel is random, okay? It is random. But isn't that just ironic? We're gonna start this off talking about the master himself, Wes Craven, and what he did with this particular film. Now, we are scoring these categories 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the best. We can use 0.5. So in other words, you could use
Okay.
1.5, 2.5, 3.5, and 4.5. Steven, let's start this off. What do you think about Wes's directing of New Nightmare, and what's the score you would give it?
Well, I mean, I think the directing was absolutely, as always, amazing. I think that how his attention to detail, man, like every time I watch the movie, and as with most of his movies, there's always these little nuances that sometimes may pass you by when you watch it on a casual viewing, and then you go
Mm-hmm.
back, it's like, oh yeah, I see what he did there. Other things though are the way he's always able to layer ideas to get us thinking if we want to do that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there's actually, this is what's interesting in this particular movie is I never, it wasn't lost on me that there's so much philosophical and theological components to this movie that
Mm-hmm.
like I'm not kidding, like you could literally do a sermon breaking down some of this movie and talking about the theology of it, because it's Wes is not afraid to go deep ever.
Right.
And to me, this is a movie that is goes deep. If you want to go deep, you don't have to. You can just go
Mm-hmm.
kind of shallow in, face level, just leave it there. That's fine. But if you want to go there, it can
Mm-hmm.
get you thinking on some real deep stuff. But yeah, I think the direction of the film was fantastic, of course, and I love seeing all of Wes's. Now we're not talking about cast or anything, but I just love to see all of his quote crew that
Mm-hmm.
is so loyal to him, and he's loyal to them. And you see them here. I mean, you see Lynn Shay in here. You
Mm-hmm.
see Kenny, the cameraman from Scream Six, as the in the morgue, and it's like it's just so cool. And you know that respect is there from both sides, that mutual respect.
Right.
Honestly, I don't have anything to criticize on the directing. I think Wes brought his vision to life exactly the way he wanted to. He wrote the movie, so it's all from his mind. And I think this was a kick, you know what, return to Freddy Krueger. And he's like, you know what? Enough of this silliness and this nonsense. I'm writing another Freddy movie and we're going to do this thing right. We're going back to the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought Wes did an amazing job. Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
and the score is what, 1 to 5, right?
Yeah,
Anything
1 to 5, 1 being the worst and 5 being perfect.
Oh, this is a solid 5. I have no doubt about it.
Ooh,
Yep.
okay. All right.
Mhm.
Sweet. Okay. So, Rachel, how about you? What did you think of the directing of the film overall? And what's the score that you want to give Wes Craven?
So I'm with Stephen. I'm obviously a huge Wes fan, and I love that he came back to this film and yes, brought Freddy back to a slightly more serious angle and got rid of the funny parts. But what I really love about this film is I think that Wes was able to implement his vision for this film so well, because if you look at this film and you look at the first Nightmare on Elm Street, it has a very different feel, but it's still, such a great film. So you can tell that Wes wanted to take it in a new direction, because when I watched the first Nightmare on Elm Street, which I absolutely adore, obviously, but that is very much, a slasher film. It's, it has all of the markings of a slasher film, and it feels like a teen slasher, great characterization, but that's what it is. Whereas when I watch this one, I'm with Steven, this one is very deep. It feels more like a psychological family drama almost, with a horror element to it. And I think that Wes really brought that kind of creeping dread to this. Like, I love that so many of the sequences are calmer and softer and almost eerie, like all of the instances where Heather finds her kid sleepwalking and his creepy little Freddy's back, and all of those. I think they're really great scenes. I think a lot of the dream sequences are done really well, and I think a lot of the quieter scenes are done like so well that they just have this kind of eerie overture to them. Like, I love the scene where Heather goes to see Wes and he's explaining what's happening in the meta angle of the movie, and I just think there's such an eeriness and such an atmosphere to it. And Wes is, I don't think I've ever seen a film of his where I've said this is bad directing from Wes. Like, he's always top form. We've talked about this in the Scream series. Even the lesser well-received Scream movies are still, the directing is still A+,
Right.
and so I think he brings that here as well. And so I'm with Steven. I think this is a 5 out of 5. I think Wes really came back into this franchise and brought it back to what we were originally expected. And we have fun with some of the other sequels. We've talked about that. They can be fun, they can be a bit of light entertainment, but this is what we want from Freddy. We want the dread and the fear, and I think that Wes really got that. And I think he got great performances out of his actors as well. Heather Langenkamp kind of playing a fictionalized version of herself. I thought that he did pretty well with the kid. The kid was definitely creeping me out throughout the movie, which was kind of the point. So I thought that worked really well. And I think overall the directing of this is so good. It's so sharp, and it's just Wes all over. So I'm going with 5 as well. Definitely 5 for me.
Okay. All right. For me, I think, the thing about Wes Craven is that he's such an intelligent director, and he utilizes so many different things that you don't always get to see in horror films, especially of that day, when you're talking about the the 70s, the 80s, or the 90s. And what I'm trying to say is that he was always kind of leading the charge. You know what I'm saying? He was always trying to push the envelope, and he was trying to give fresh takes. And especially when you talk about the Nightmare series and what it had gone through, the roller coaster that it had gone through in so many ways, this was a very brave film for him to do as well, because it could have easily, crashed and burned. This is the type of film that, if it works, there's a medal for bravery. If it doesn't work, then you're totally screwed. And but Wes, he directs this film with such confidence, I think, and the way it's written, and like you said too, Stephen, there's so many layers to this film. When I was rewatching it to prep for this, the thing that kept coming to my mind that was really interesting too is the whole idea of motherhood, and how Heather is portrayed. And of course, we'll get to those categories possibly, but just to say one thing is that how Heather was portrayed as a mother in the beginning of the film, and how she ends up at the end through this process that was almost like strengthening her through her experience with her child Dylan. And it's like, holy crap, Wes Craven did that in not only a horror movie, but a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, after all these other things we had seen. And especially if you look at, and again, not to rant, but this is just coming to my head right now, especially when you think about something like Nightmare 5, when they were talking about the whole idea of abortion and things like that. Very heavy material. Some of it worked to me, some of it didn't work. And it's almost like Wes comes in and he's like, well, I can get really thematic and I can show you the way that it can work. So I have to agree with you guys. I know I'm ranting, but I have to agree with you guys. This has to be a 5. The master returned. So it was a great directing effort by Wes Craven. So I'm going with a 5. Okay.
Nice.
Let's check out what we got going on in the chat a little bit. I won't be able to get to all of you guys' comments, but definitely keep talking, letting us know what you think. We are seeing it. Of course, if you do send in a super chat, we'll make sure to get your comment or question. Let's see. And Val, thank you so much for putting the playlist in the chat for the great debates. We're having a lot of fun with these. A lot of fun. Okay. Ryan's in the house. Hey, Ryan, good to see you. We got Russell in the house saying all the best in 2025. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see. And Jeff is going with a 5. Okay. Very, very cool. And thank you, Val, also for putting the link in for Rachel and Steven's channel. Again, if you guys haven't subscribed, make sure you guys do. That would be awesome. That'd be a great New Year's Eve gift, wouldn't it?
Yes.
It would.
And we got Rory in the house. Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. Let's see. We got Kaz in the house. Okay.
Oh, shout out to Kaz. That's my bestie. She watched this movie with me yesterday in preparation. So I'm glad she made it to the panel.
Very cool. Awesome.
Nice.
Well, welcome. Thank you for being here. All right. Let's see. I think I'm caught up to everyone. Jeff also saying, Robert, one of the best performances in New Nightmare. It was a really good one. Hopefully we get to that category, but we shall see. Okay. Let's take this one off. Rachel, we're going to spin and have you start up this next category that is chosen.
Excellent.
Let's see what we get. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, baby.
Nice.
Yeah. Man, I'm excited for this one. Okay. So the final girl category, obviously talking about the great, well, in my opinion, the great Heather Langenkamp. What do you think about her performance as the final girl in this film? And what's the score you want to give her?
I love Heather in this film. You know, the fact that she's playing a fictionalized version of herself is really interesting. But I think also she has to incorporate elements of Nancy, especially as we get towards the climax of the film, you know. And I think we really get to see the personality behind what brought Nancy to life for us and what made Nancy such a great final girl and why we love her so much. You know, Heather has just that charisma to her that she just lights up the screen. And whenever she's on the screen, I think she's fantastic. And I'm with you, Knight. I think the theme of motherhood in this movie is so great. And hopefully we'll get to talk about the story because I really love the angle of her trying to save her son and her absolute determination and desperation to figure out what is going on with her kid. That quiet scene in the hospital when she's saying to him, you need to come back to me. Our home is, you know, the home is just across the freeway. We want to go home, but you need to come back to me, sweetie. You need to, you know, fight your way out of it. And I just think she shows such strength throughout the movie. You know, obviously the fictionalized version of herself in the movie loses her husband and is left a widow, you know, with a kid, and she's trying to figure out her own grief and her kid's grief. And I just think that Heather plays herself, you know, really well. You know, we get this, you know, this feel for what it's like to be a young actor in Hollywood in the early 90s. They worked in the Stalker storyline, which was unfortunately something that happened to Heather in real life that Wes decided to incorporate. So, you know, you get to see that downside of Hollywood. And I just think that she's great. And I think, you know, the meta angle of her towards the end, accepting that she has to be Nancy one last time and she has to kind of reach into herself to find that final girl spirit to go into Freddy's underworld and get her kid. Oh, she's so great. She's so fantastic. And I just think that Heather, brings that vulnerability and that you just really empathize with her character and you really feel for her. And you definitely see what she drew from to bring Nancy out and to make Nancy that amazing final girl. So I'm going with a 5. I mean, I don't think you can rate her anything else. She's fantastic in this. And absolutely love the characterization and the progression of her character in this. So 5 out of 5 for Heather/Nancy.
Okay. All right. Steven, how about you, man? What do you think?
I mean, I echo everything, honestly, Rachel said. I mean, you know, there was a maturity about her in this movie.
Yeah.
From the, you know, all the time that had passed from Dream Warriors. And you can feel the maturity, you can see it. And I think it just made her performance even stronger because, you know, you think back to Nightmare 1, she's so young, she's pretty green, you know, and she did a great job. But when you look at that and you look at this, it's like, wow, she's really, you can just see the growth in her own maturity. And I think that just made the character of Nancy and as her new self, Heather, just all that much better. And it just, to me, it even brought more of a feeling of authenticity, if you will. It felt like I really believed everything that's going on. And the whole stalker thing, I mean, can you imagine the emotions she tapped into? I
Yeah.
mean, when she picks that phone up, she's probably tapping into that anger and that fear that she felt. And I'm sure Wes obviously asked permission if it was okay to go there. And she said it was. But the thing is, man, I think that when you see her performance here as Nancy and Heather, and I think she absolutely nailed both in this role. And it was just nice to see, like, after all this time has passed, what would she be like, all these years later in playing this role? And she gave us an answer to that. It was fantastic. And as the mother figure, you were talking about, it just added more of that motherly realness. I don't know what else to say, authenticity, because when she took Nightmare 1 and 3, Night 1, I highly doubt she was a parent. 3, I'm not sure, but I doubt it even then. So, having not been a parent myself and having been a parent now, it changes so much. And so playing a parental role, you just, comes more naturally. So I know I'm really going on and on, but she did a fantastic job. And I know we're not getting to the story yet. I'll save that. But I'm giving Nancy and Heather a 5.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
I think what I really enjoyed about her as the final girl in this film was it was almost like you got so much extra from her, because not even the fact that she's playing herself, a fictionalized version of herself, but it just seemed like there was a sincerity that was there, that's even more so than what we had seen before. And trust me, in 84, and we haven't gotten to that yet, but we will. But she was such a sincere character in that. So it was like, this was like, Heather / Nancy, like on steroids. You know what I'm saying? Like every scene that she was in, it just felt like I was watching her. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't watching a movie. And I think that was so cool that Wes was able to tap into this whole idea, this meta idea of the film. It actually, it angled to her strengths as an actress, because she's a very humble person. And she's obviously shown that over the years, whether it's interviews or conventions or whatever. When I had the amazing honor to meet her in person, that's exactly what she's like. Like, she's so matter of fact. Like, this is the type of person that's ready to like walk down the street and get on a public bus and not think anything of that. You know what I'm saying? And so you saw that in this movie, and then what she has to become. So that whole idea of the final girl, and that transition into a protector, a warrior, a fighter, and so forth, it was even more augmented than you usually would see in a horror film. And it was just great seeing her as the person doing it. I know I'm kind of rambling about it, but because to me, her character of Nancy Thompson is a fantastic example of a final girl, one of the best. And in my opinion, of course, again, we'll get to that with 84, but in my opinion, one of the more underrated final girls. Like, sometimes people kind of forget about her a little bit, and it's interesting. But her performance is great. Her scenes with Dylan were so heartfelt, and like you were feeling so bad for her when she's in the hospital and talking to Dr. Hefner, played by Fran Bennett, who, by the way, was fantastic in this film. But you could just feel this struggle, and how everyone's getting this sense that, that she's crazy, and that she has allowed her son to watch her films, and is almost abusive and so forth.
Man.
And it's almost like you feel so bad for her, which is what you always want. You want to be invested in the characters, especially the final girl. So anyways, I say all that to say this has got to be a 5. She was
Yeah.
fantastic.
Mhm.
Not that
Yeah.
you know, I'm not trying to just throw fives around like it's nothing, but she was just so good in this film, and
Mm.
to be able to do that in a meta film
Yes.
is even more of an accomplishment in my opinion. So, all right. Very, very cool.
Yeah, I wanted to
Let's see.
strangle that doctor's neck.
Oh, I know,
Oh,
right?
I was
I
so
Mhm.
know.
frustrated with her.
Yep.
I know.
I'm
Miss
like, I hope
Thundercat.
Freddy finds you, woman. I hope Freddy,
Right?
because this
Yes.
is for G. Oh man.
Real quick too, we got Scott in the house. What's up, Scott? Good to see you. Saying hey to everyone. Wanted to wish everyone
Hey,
a happy new year.
Hey.
Same to you.
Happy New Year.
Thank you for being here. Yeah. Stuart in the house. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Let's see. Kaz saying she had a kind of strength that wasn't too domineering, especially for the 90s. That's a good
Yeah.
point. I like
Mhm.
that. And it's so true. She just had this easiness about her,
Hmm.
which is who she really is. Not that I know her personally, but I'm just saying, for all accounts, that's who she is. And so that journey to be the fighter at the end was a stronger journey because she kills it at the end. She really does. So very
Yes.
cool.
Yeah,
Very
she does.
cool. Hey, Nathaniel, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. All right. Okay, so let's see what we get for our next category from the wheel. I'll be starting off this particular topic. All right. Now, you know what's interesting about this series is that the wheel is random, so you never know what's going to be picked.
Mhm.
And, you know, it can work to the advantage or the disadvantage of all these films. But at the end of the day, I think when we rank the franchise, it's going to be a very cool yet fair ranking. Now, this is the thing about New Nightmare. You know, we have a couple of kills. Obviously, we have uh, oh my god, I'm blanking on her name, Julie's
Oh,
death, which was kind of you know, one of the cornerstones as they recreate Tina's death. Now, first of all, I'm going to say this is not at the same level of Tina's death. It's taken in a different direction, which I thought was kind of interesting because you see Freddy killing her, whereas in the
hmm,
original you do not see him. So I thought that that was actually pretty cool. Of course, Chase's death, playing um, Heather's husband, that
yeah,
was interesting. I didn't think it was anything super special. Um, and of course, we had the dream sequence that Nancy had, or I should say Heather had. I'm going to just say Heather, but we know
Yeah.
who she
Yeah.
is. In the beginning of the film with Chase's assistance, we had that as well. So
yep,
obviously the kills are not as in the forefront, and part of that is because of the whole idea. I think you said it earlier, Rachel. This psychological film that has the horror added in there. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So for me, I think kills is where we're gonna have some interesting discussion. I think I'm gonna go. I think I'm going to go with a 2.5 on the kills. I'm going to go with a 2.5. I think Julie's death was really good. I don't think Chase's death was anything, you know, special per se. For some reason, I kept thinking about the kill in Nightmare 5 with Dan. Well, no, not Dan. Oh my gosh. Yeah, with Dan, because he was in the truck and all that type of stuff.
The
So
Road Warrior scene.
the Road
Yeah.
Warrior, yeah, the Iron Man.
Yeah.
Now, granted, this film isn't going into those directions, so it's not going to be like that. And not that I want to, you know, compare, but that is in the back of your mind. So I'm going to go with a 2.5. What do you think, Rachel?
I think your assessment is fair. And I was thinking this like last night when I was going over my talking points for today. I was thinking kills. There really aren't that many kills in this movie. You only have two on screen and the
hmm,
opening dream sequence, and then we hear about another two. Now, that being said, I do think Julie's death is very good.
Mhm.
Again, I do like that it is, you know, a call out, a shout out to the first movie. And I actually kind of like that you see Freddy appearing and disappearing. Like the kid can see Freddy, but no one else can see Freddy. And I just kind of think that's an interesting take. But like you said, you really that's really it. That's really our big kill for this movie. Yeah, I didn't think Chase's death was really anything spectacular. You know, you had like chest burst, a little bit of chest bursting, but he mostly just crashed the truck, so there wasn't that much to go on. So yeah, I think you've said it. I think 2.5 is fair because the kill that we did get, like the one good kill we got, it was a really good kill, a nice shout out and very graphic, but there weren't that many kills. And honestly, I think that suited this movie. I don't think this movie would have been the same if we'd had lots of blood and guts, because the horror is more a creeping horror. But yeah, it means that we can't really score the kills that high. So I think 2.5 is a fair one. I'm going to go with that as well.
Okay. All right. Steven, how about you, man?
Yeah, you guys make a good case for a 2.5 in the right, right in the middle. I'm going to give it a 3.0 because the dream kills in the opening of the movie, I'm going to include those, even though I know it's a dream sequence, but I'm going to, when you watch this movie, especially the first time, you don't know what's going to happen, of course. And to see these guys get it, the claw, like just through the throat. And I'm like, dude, so I'm going to give it a 3. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I agree with you what y'all said. This movie wasn't about kills. It's about so much more.
Yeah.
So much more than just like a slasher movie. This is much, much deeper. Not shunning slashers because that's my favorite genre.
Me too.
But and there are some good, deep thinking slashers.
That's right.
So I don't take that the wrong way. But no, I agree with you guys. I think that's fair. But I'm going to go one just a little bit higher.
Okay. All right. Real quick too in the chat, just to catch up with you guys, we got Jason coming in with a super chat. Thank you so much, Jason. Hope you're doing well, man. Good to see you here. Saying Happy New Year to beautiful friends, Night, Craven, Rachel, Coriander. Happy New Year to my chat family. Love you all. Well, thank you so much, man. We appreciate that and hope that you're having a good New Year's Eve and also to have a great 2025. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And thank you, Val, for giving some thanks too. I appreciate that. We got Palpatine in the house too. What's going on? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well, man. We also have Jeff coming in with a $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Jeff. Much appreciated, bro.
Nice.
Saying Heather Langenkamp, she has had such good chemistry with Robert Englund. I just wish they could have had more movies together instead of the 3. But one of her best performances of all the I think he means times with Robert. Thank you so much, man. Seriously, I appreciate that. And I agree. She had some great chemistry with Robert. It was so cool seeing them together, in that one scene when they were done the TV show. And from all accounts, and from all accounts, that's how they really are in real life, So it's so cool to see that, you kind of get a peek behind the curtain. And I think that's awesome. Okay. And real quick too, we also have Hack Productions in the chat. What's going on? Welcome with a super chat. Thank you so much. Saying my favorite people in the whole wide world of YouTube. If it's New Year's Eve, then it must be time for the end of the year panel bash celebration. There you go. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for the super chat. We appreciate that. Seriously. Oh my gosh. And you take care too, Jack. Okay. So look, let's do a super chat clip for you guys. Thank you so much for the support. It really helps us. And, it keeps the lights on, allows us to do the extra stuff that we try our best to do as much as we can, and so forth and so forth. So let's do a clip for you guys. Let's do a new or newer clip, because, sometimes you never know. Sometimes you never know what to expect. And here we go.
You tried to play the game, but it's driving you insane. Jumanji, danger in the jungle. Jumanji, there's lion in my house. Come on, man.
Oh.
Motherfucker.
What?
Motherfucker.
Dang.
Oh
Wow.
dear.
If you know, you know. Oh man,
That girl
Rachel,
wasn't playing.
your reaction was great. Oh Lord, thank you guys so much. Seriously, and also just to say, since we are talking about you guys being so generous, big thank you, as I said last night, to all of you guys that have been a part of the channel and this community, all the viewers, the people that watch the streams, that leave the comments, and of course, the Watchers fam on Patreon, and also for the channel memberships. Obviously includes you, Stephen, and you, Rachel. Thank you guys so much for helping to make 2024 a really good year. It's been a challenging year, but channel wise, and some of the things that I personally had for goals and so forth, we were able to really achieve so much of that, and we couldn't have done that
Excellent.
without
That's
all
awesome.
you guys. So I
Yeah.
just want to make sure I say that. I said it last night, but obviously being New Year's Eve, it's really special and it's appreciated. And we hope to keep pushing forward and making 2025 an even more fun year, providing a lot of great content and a lot of value for you folks that spend your precious time being here as a part of this community. So thank you all.
My pleasure, buddy.
Yes, and
Thanks,
thank
man.
you to you, Knight, for letting us be part of this community. It's been a great experience for me doing these panels, and I've loved every single one I've done. So thank
Aw.
you.
Well, like I always say, and I know Stephen feels the same way, for everyone in this community and the folks that are able to be a part of it and to also help out and be on panels and all that, you guys make this what it is. You make it the special thing that it is, because it's it would be, and this is a content creator too, Rachel. I mean, it'd be very easy to just do content, record it, upload it, and just keep on moving, and never to really have those connections to the community. Not to put shade on that, because everyone has their own style, right?
Right.
But I think that when you get a chance to really hang out with folks and make connections and build relationships, I think it's pretty cool, especially in this day and age where things move so fast and people don't get a chance to really take a step back and breathe and develop friendships. So you guys, speaking to you specifically, Rachel, you help to make these things possible for folks like Stephen and I, and we appreciate it. We really do. Yeah. All
That's
right.
right. It was great, and this was the year that I got to meet Rachel, 2024.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's awesome, and I'm so
It's been
thankful
great.
that it's been so awesome. I love all the time that we've spent together this year on different panels, and
Me too.
Yeah.
It's been
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, and I think 2025 is going to be I teased this last night, but a lot of great things. If nothing else, I have ideas. So it's
right. Exactly.
so
I understand that, brother.
Me too. We all have ideas.
Got the
Yeah.
ideas.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll be able to put those in motion. I think we will, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I really, really do. All right.
Yes.
And Val's laughing at the clip. Yeah, that was a good one. And Nathaniel saying, "What are some of your big channel plans for next year?" Well, Nathaniel, too many to name. But I will say this, and Stephen, you'll appreciate this, because Nathaniel set me up good. If you'd like to join our channel membership or our
Yep.
Patreon,
Yep.
I have been disclosing some of those things, and also having you guys help plan those things. We have a lot of ideas, including a watch party that we're planning to do for next week. And I just actually put the poll out last night to see what days work best, for everyone. So definitely please consider that. It helps us out and also allows me to communicate with you guys much more personally. And also, I can kind of focus on those conversations more than in a live stream where there's so many things going on. So, all right.
Yeah, man.
Neil's in the house. What's up?
Hey, Neil.
Hey, Neil.
Brothers, saying I just finished the homework man assigned to me. My review of The Witch is finished. Will be uploaded this weekend. There you
Nice.
go, man.
Hey, all right.
I love that. Man, I love that too. All right. Gory's in the house. Gory Tiger, what's going on? All right. Very, very cool. And thank you, Zed. You are the Night Watch. So yes, indeed. And also, if you haven't hit the like button, please do. Jeff, yeah, I'm ready for 2025 too, man. I am too, no doubt. Okay, let's go to our next category and see what we get. And Stephen, you'll be starting us off with this talking point.
Okay.
Ooh, okay. Interesting.
Nice.
Interesting.
Oh,
Okay.
good.
So when we talk about the story of the film, you know,
Yeah.
A to Z, how it's crafted and how it's pulled off, what do you think of the story and what's the score you want to give it?
Okay. Well, I think it's incredible, the story to me, how it is crafted, how it was written. Because, you know, Wes at some point, and I don't know, I haven't read any back information on this, but I'm just
Mhm.
in my own mind, I think, man, so he gets this idea, and I do know what's real interesting about this when he talked about as himself, how he does a lot of his writing from his nightmares.
Mhm.
And that actually is factual. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I remember him saying that he keeps a journal on his nightstand
Mhm.
because, and he said somehow he learned how a technique to recall his dreams. I don't know how he did it, but he
Ooh.
said he would wake up and he
Mhm.
would write down everything he dreamt, and
Mhm.
that many of his movies came from his actual dreams.
Mm.
And so I thought that was really cool. They put that in the movie. But I thought to myself, what a brilliant concept to say, okay, you know what? Not only am I going to do a new Freddy movie, but
Mhm.
I'm going to do it in our world. We're going to be not just Heather and Freddy. We're going to be Robert. We're going to be John Saxon.
Mhm.
You know, I'm going to be Wes Craven. Robert England's going to be Robert. And I just like, what a brilliant idea, just that alone.
Mhm.
And then of course you mix the whole story where Freddy is this, and I love how he says this entity
Mhm. Yeah.
he says it's very old
Mhm.
and it is now comfortable as Freddy. But
Mhm.
we learn it's this demonic entity, some type, spiritual entity that is in the form of Freddy.
Mhm.
And I just thought it was just brilliant to me, and how this entity wants out. It wants to be in our world. And so it's going through all the people that the last movie, the movies, you know, the movies that they were in, he's coming back through, trying to come back through them. And then when
Mhm.
Nancy asked Wes, well, how does this stop? How does this end? He said, there has to be another movie.
Right.
You're going to have to decide whether or not you're going to be Nancy one more time for one final
Mhm.
movie. And of course, what's so meta about that sentence is he's probably literally talking about the movie they're making.
Right.
Like she's actually being it one more time, Nancy, in the
Mhm.
movie we're watching, which is so. And this is the level, like this meta stuff, man. Like Scream gets, you know, look, Scream is my movie favorite of all time. I bleed Ghostface, okay? But let me just tell you, I'm going to
You
say
should start
this.
using that, man. That's a good
I,
one.
I should, shouldn't I?
I'm just telling you, man. That's a good one right there. I
Just
never
popped
thought
in my
about
head.
that.
I bleed Ghostface.
You
Well,
should.
I'm gonna maybe I put that as like a new tagline or something.
I'm serious.
Craven, I bleed Ghostface. But you know what's Scream often gets, like from what I see, the majority of the credit for bringing meta horror, meta type of self awareness into horror, and I know it
Mhm.
pop culturally is no doubt about that. It's so huge.
Right.
But if you back it up the tape a couple of years to 1994,
Mhm.
we see Wes was already doing this. He's already conscious of this meta aspect and how you can make this work. And it's so cool when you hear all these references that apply to the movie you're watching. And it's just so cool. And so the story itself was great. The idea of it, the crafting of it, as you said, I thought was wonderful. And I think the execution was absolutely dead on. And the way it all comes together and it all cultivates, and the dungeon or the whatever that place was, it was just, it was fantastic, man. I think the story is, you can go very deep with the story. We talked about it earlier. And there's so many layers to it. Again, saying that again, that anyone here who's watching that maybe has only seen it once, I almost beg you to go back and watch it again. Watch it again, because there's more nuggets in there if you pay attention that you probably caught. I know it was for me. I know there's others like me. So I give the story a 5, dude. Sorry to be 5 dropping, but it's true. Man. I do, man.
Okay. All right. Rachel, how about you?
I'm with Steven. I think the story of this movie is so great. And again, with Steven, I am a Scream girly. Absolutely. Like, Scream is my ultimate horror movie, but I don't think we would have had Scream if we didn't have this movie, because this is the movie that really, where Wes started to bring that meta angle in. And I really love that angle. I love that the movie unfolds and you see the script unfolding alongside the movie, and it blurs that reality of like, is this the movie that we're watching? Is this Heather's real life? What is happening here? Where are the lines, like, where are the lines being blurred and what's the reality? I love Freddy as this kind of imposing presence that's just trying to get into our world. And I'm really hoping that we're going to land on mythology at some point, because I really want to talk more about that. But what I really, really love about this movie is, if you strip all the horror and all of the meta-ness away, this is, and I said this before, this is a story about a grieving mother trying to save her son. And I think that that emotional crutch is done so well. I think Heather, she plays that role so well. I think her chemistry with the kid is so good. I think you just feel that desperation so well, and you become so invested in her relationship with her son. Like Steven was saying, like, the doctors, you want to smack the doctors in the face when they're trying to imply that she's, that she's hurting her kid. And you're just like, don't you dare disrespect my girl that way. She is doing everything in her power. And then, like Steven said, when you have that final scene where I love the following the breadcrumbs. I love the Hansel and Gretel analogy. I thought that was a great little way that they worked that in. And then, where she literally goes into hell to save her child. And I just think this movie is so emotional. Like, my bestie and I, when we were watching it yesterday, we were saying that we're like, this is so much more emotional than almost any other nightmare film. Like, you really feel for this young mother who's grieving, who's desperately trying to work through things. That scene where the kid climbs up on the equipment
in the playground,
and then he says, God didn't take me, and you're just, oh my God, your heart just breaks for him. It breaks for Heather. It's so emotional. And so, I think that everything about this movie works. I think the meta angle works. I think the Hollywood storyline is great, but I really just love that at the end of the day, this is about a mother trying to save her child. Kind of reminds me a bit of Poltergeist in that respect, the desperation that a parent will go through, to get their child back from the clutches of evil. So again, I'm with Steven. Don't mean to be dropping 5s all the time, but this is definitely a 5. I'm going for 5 out of 5.
All right. Okay. Wow. For me, this is a great story. Again, I said earlier, I think it was a very brave story for Wes to tell, especially when you think about where the franchise was at that point. I mean, the franchise was limping, bro. I mean, this was bad juju going on, and also the state of horror at that point, because even though Halloween at that point was still kind of going through some sequels and so forth, Friday the 13th was limping. The whole idea of the 80s slasher was limping. And so I think, again, it was that type of thing where you roll the dice. This could have been the greatest idea of all time, or it could have been a super circus show. So I think it was such a brave decision for him to do it. And you mentioned it too, Rachel, and I was thinking about this too. And of course, I had thought of this before, but the whole idea to paralleling this to the old fairy tales, you know, like Hansel and Gretel, and all those little, you know, again, there's so many layers going on in this film. And I think that it's almost like Wes, and I don't know this whatsoever, but it's almost like Wes was, you could almost feel him smiling about this, saying, you know what? Okay, we're going to come back. We're going to do this the right way, but I'm going to give you guys something more, you know, and it really shows. And we already talked about the directing, so I don't want to keep ranting, but we already talked about just how well he directed this film, you know, writing this story. And you can just see how much further above he is from the last couple
Mhm.
of directors before him. You know what I'm
Oh
saying? Like
gosh, yes.
it's almost night and day. Um
Mhm.
that being said, you know, for the story, there was only two things about the story that I was kind of like, oh man, I wish. And this could have also been. I almost want to research it now. This also could have been, you know, some things with the studio as far as, because it's a long film compared to some of the other Nightmare films. But I almost felt like, man, I wonder if there was, you know, a couple more, you know, minutes of ideas that he had as well. So I'm gonna go with a 4.5. It's
Okay.
almost a 5 to me. I have a couple things that I just like, you know, like that being one. But it's fantastic story and it's so brave. So I'm gonna go with a 4.5. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Real quick, too, in the chat, just to catch up to you guys, we got Corporal Hicks in the house from Aliens. What's up, man? Saying, I love New Nightmare. It's one of my favorite Freddy movies, scary, fresh, and old school at the same time.
Yeah.
I like that.
Wow.
That's very true. It has both sides to it. I agree. And we got Eric in the house. What's up, man? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well, brother. Uh,
Hey, Eric.
said
Hey,
this was
Eric.
the first Freddy movie I saw in theaters, and I think it's still one of the best. Top 3 for me. There you go, man.
Mhm. Yep.
There you go. And we got Hollywood Guy coming in with a super chat. Thank you so much, man. We appreciate you. Saying hot take. I liked A New Nightmare over Freddy versus Jason. All right. Okay. Very, very cool. I appreciate that. And man, I can't wait to see how these scores are gonna line up because obviously we've already done Freddy versus Jason, but you know, I can say I agree with you on that one. I do. Very, very cool. Okay, let's do a quick super chat clip for you as well, man. Thank you so much for the support. We appreciate that, and you know, happy New Year. So here we go. You know, Steven, sometimes even your childhood, you know, heroes, you know, they fall as well. Here we go.
Mm.
Not to fear, little children. I will help.
In the night has come.
No,
I don't remember that scene from Wicked.
dude. Oh,
Mm.
Corey. Oh gosh,
I
dude.
know. Thank you so much, Hollywood Guy. Eric saying, even though Freddy is technically a demon in this and not Freddy, it was nice seeing him scary and dangerous again after the last few movies with pizzas, skateboards, and video games. I know.
Yes,
I
exactly.
know.
Yep.
It's so true.
And
What's up?
broomsticks.
And
Yes. Uh-huh. And
oh,
Oh,
hey,
Cat Freddy looking like the penguin.
I'm so, I'm so surprised that Eric did say broomsticks, man. That's great.
oh gosh.
Elm Street is in the house saying, "What's up? What's up, man? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well." Let's see. We got Jason in the house. What's up, Jason? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Nathaniel saying, I was lucky enough to see New Nightmare in the theater. All right, one of my favorite movie experiences. Very cool.
Mm.
All right. Spiders in the chat. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Kaz saying the hospital scenes are well written too, because even though the audience is rooting for Heather, if you see things from the doctor's point of view, you can understand why they think she is abusing him. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's
And
true,
that's
but we still want to smack the doctor.
That's right.
right. Oh my God. That's a good one. But well said. Well said. I totally agree. Val's like, what? What happened here? Oh gosh. Okay. All right. Let's go. Let's go to our next category. Let's see what we get. Ooh, okay. Interesting. Oh, this will be an interesting one. Wow. Okay, so we're talking about the dreamscape. Now, let me just say this, especially for you guys in the chat. We've talked about this in every Elm Street film. Obviously, we have, the nightmare sequences. And so the dreamscape, as Robert loves to call it, is obviously where Freddy is operating in your dreams. Now, in this film, even though it's, obviously meta and so forth, and like Eric said a few minutes ago, Freddy's a demon and all this type of stuff. We get that. But, we're talking about like, Heather's nightmare she has at the beginning. And we're also talking about the ending because that's basically his world, that she went into, that her and Dylan went into. So that's part of the dreamscape as well. Obviously, it's a little bit different the way we're looking at it compared to the other films. But then again, this film is different than the other films. So all of that being said, Rachel, we're going to start with you. What do you think of the dreamscape in this film? Its effectiveness, and what's the score you want to give it?
So it's really interesting. When we did, I think it was the fifth movie, I talked about how in the fifth movie, I didn't like that half the time you couldn't tell where you were. Like the dream would just start, but no one was asleep and you'd just be like, what's going on? That being said, I think you see that in this movie, but in this movie, I think that works because it works for that meta-ness of is Heather being sucked into Freddy's world, or is he coming into our world? So I actually think the fact that there were a few sequences where you didn't actually know what was going on, like the funeral sequence where she sees the kid being dragged into the coffin, or even some of the sequences where like the knives are coming up like through the bed sheets and you're not sure what's happening. I actually thought that worked really well, and again worked well for this idea of Freddy as this big evil who's trying to encroach onto our world. And I actually thought that for this movie, that aspect worked well. I love the opening scene to this movie. I think that particular dream is so good. I love the idea of like the Freddy claw, like just being its own possessed thing. I think the design of the actual hand in that opening scene is so good. It looks like a creepy little spider, just running around. Like you don't want to come across that thing late at night. And I also think the dreamscape at the end is really fun. When you go down into the depths of hell and wherever Freddy is, and there's fire and water and snakes and like all of the things that you see in your worst nightmares are really, really great down there. And so like we've said, this isn't your typical Freddy. He's not coming into dreams the way he normally would, but like you just said, Knight, this is a very different film in the franchise. It has a very different feel, and because it has that meta confusing, is this a movie, is this real life, I think it really, really works. I do wish that there had been a little bit more. It would have been nice because it's Freddy, we're used to dreams, but again, I understand that for this film that may not have worked as well, and the subtlety I think works a bit better. So I'm going to go with 4.5, not quite 5 because it doesn't quite reach the heights of like the original Dreamscape and the Dream Warriors Dreamscape, but I do think that for this movie and for what they were trying to do, it worked really well. So 4.5 for the Dreamscape for me.
Oh, okay. All right. Steven, how about you?
Yeah, good points, Rachel. And something else I love too is Dylan, you never knew if she was, is this a dream? Is he sleepwalking, or is he just walking and just being weird? I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. And then, I never forget that scene where she's in the kitchen and Dylan's there and she grabs him, and because he's like, oh, he had the knives taped to his fingers.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh. And he was like, he looked mean, like evil. And he took a swipe at her. Like he was straight up trying to get her. And then she grabs him or whatever. And then Freddie said, the phone rings and she grabs it, and it's Freddie saying, I've touched him. And then the tongue comes out of the phone.
Yeah.
I'm like, we got to call back to the 84.
Yes.
And in a different way. And of course, then the kids it's up or whatever, and then the phone
Mhm.
starts googling,
Yeah.
gurgling stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, I mean, I could see where she could question her own sanity, honestly. With
Absolutely.
all
Yeah.
Yeah.
there is so much going on,
Mhm.
and I gotta say, Rex is my boy. I
Yes.
Good old
love
Rex.
Yes.
Rex.
I know.
Yes.
And he's like, and when he's like,
Rex.
Rex keeps him down there,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and he sleeps with his feet up above Rex. I'm like, look at
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And they did surgery on him, which I was like, oh, that was sweet. You know, he was cut up.
Yep.
Anyway, I'm getting off the dreamscape. Well, not really. That is part of the dreamscape. I think the dreamscape was very good. There was nothing I thought really was lacking a whole lot there for me.
Mhm.
I'll give it a 4. I mean, I could do a
Okay.
4.5 as well. I could. But just to be different, I'll go 4. But that's I still think it was really, really good. Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. So look, listen, here's the thing for me. This film, it made that choice, to go more into the psychological versus the horror,
Yes.
and that's the point of this film. But that being said, the dreamscape I don't think was a strong point of the film. And I think that, the opening nightmare, I think while it was interesting, I don't think that there was necessarily anything that like when I think of the dreamscapes of the franchise, that's not one of my top ones, right?
Yeah.
Like it was cool seeing Heather as Heather, in a fictionalized, day, of work and so forth. But that one didn't, no pun intended, that one didn't grab me as much as so many others that would come to my mind. Now at the end, and kind of what you were saying, Rachel, at the end when we go into the hell world or what have you, which is basically, his dreamscape, so to speak. I think there was some really cool stuff in that. I loved the way Heather had to travel into it through in
Yes.
the bed and the covers. That was
Mhm.
such a cool scene. I was like, oh my God, that
Yeah.
is so cool.
Yeah.
And then of course, the gothic vibe of it with the statues and the columns and all of
Mhm.
that. And then of course you have the fire and all this type of stuff. Basically, still got that Hansel and Gretel vibe of we're gonna lock the witch in the oven, and that
Mhm.
type of thing. But I do wish that we had more of that. That was kind of what I was alluding to earlier with the story, is that, it just felt like um that was shortened a little bit. And maybe it was on purpose. I have no idea. One day I'd love to find out. But I do think the dreamscapes in overall, and of course that one you talked about too, Stephen, with the phone, that was really cool. It was a really cool callback. But I just think that it didn't feel like there was as much creativity in that, except for the end, but that was shortened. Even if you compare it to like the original, I just think
Mhm.
overall it just felt like it wasn't as creative and up there. So I'm actually, don't kill me, I'm gonna go with a 2.5 for the Dreamscape. I
Ooh.
Wow.
man, there's no lying here.
No
But
lying.
if you told me right now to name my top 10 dreamscape moments, the ending would probably be the one I would pick, and
Mhm.
maybe it would get into my top 5, maybe. So that's why I'm giving this a 2.5. All right. Okay. Real quick too, Jeff, this is a great point too, saying I like the scenes with the son. You didn't know if he was possessed by
Yes.
Freddy
Yes.
or not.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yep.
And he was having these nightmares. The only thing that protected him was his toy dinosaur. That
Mhm.
was just another cool little added thing, right?
Yeah.
That
It
that Wes had
was.
in this film. Very cool stuff.
Mhm.
Neil, he says the dreamscapes of New Nightmare is about as good as the dreamscape of Skinamarink.
Oh, Neil, that's
Neil.
brutal. That is,
Terrible.
man.
So I
Too
get,
far, Neil. Too far.
Gosh, that's harsh.
so Neil's
Too
probably gonna give
mean.
it less than a 2.5. So he's
I
getting
would
me off
guess
the hook.
so.
Oh man.
Oh
All right.
dear.
Oh, hey, I got to mention this too, real quick.
Yeah.
Did you notice the other callback? Well, I'm sure there's a lot more than this. I'm just saying
Uh,
another callback when Nancy was in her room and she had the coffee pot on her nightstand.
Mhm.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yep.
That was
Yep.
so cool. You know what? They did such a heck of a job. They really,
Yeah,
Mhm.
really did. I loved all those little things.
My
It
me
was
favorite
so
one
too.
cool.
is she's in the hospital and someone asks her about a pass, and she does
Screw
the
your
"Screw
past.
your pass" line, and I was
Yep.
like, "Yes." That's
And it's so
brilliant.
and it's so funny because obviously it's the same person, but again, you're talking about 10 years
Mhm.
and the life of an
Yeah.
actor, you go from one role to another. But when
Yeah.
she said it, it felt like the same way she said it in
It
84.
did, didn't it? It was great.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and that young fan inside of me that absolutely loves this lady and this
Mhm.
character was just like geeking out. It's like, oh my God. If you guys,
Yeah.
the one regret I have is I wish that we could have recorded us at the convention when we were talking to her and Lisa Wilcox and Kim Myers and obviously Robert, but they are so
Mhm.
strict about recording. If
Yeah, of
you
course.
guys could have seen me, Coriander was laughing her ass off because I was so in another zone, even standing next to Heather. I just couldn't, and she's so nice, guys. Like granted, we were lucky because when we got there, it was the first night of the 3-day convention, and there
Mhm.
was really not many people there, and she was probably getting ready to head back to her room or whatever. But she just was talking to us just normal, like we are now, just normal friends talking for like 20 minutes. I couldn't believe, I'm like, this is absolutely crazy. I just couldn't believe how
That's awesome.
normal it was.
Yeah.
And so anyways, I say all that to say I absolutely love this lady. So anyways,
Yeah.
in the chat, Neil s- Neil said, "Hey, sounded like Knight agrees with me." Well, hey,
Oh, dear.
uh, and he says, "For the record, New Nightmare is probably my favorite sequel other than Dream Warriors." Okay, there
Yep.
you go. See, there's no lie. You got to call it like it is, Neil. I like it. I like it, man. Okay. All right. Let's see what we get for, for our next category. And I'll be starting off the talking point for this one.
Okay.
Ooh, ooh,
Nice.
ooh, ooh. Okay. The it factor. Okay. Now,
Mm.
when we talk about it factor, we're talking about overall enjoyment of the film, things like rewatchability and all of that type of stuff. Now, this is interesting because look, I've been a fan of these movies since I was a kid. This is one of my favorite franchises, obviously, when we talk about the big three or the big four, obviously, if we add in Scream. Now, overall, when this film first came out, and I think a lot of it was an interesting time for the franchise, let's just be honest. Myself as a fan, I was kind of checked out a little bit because obviously, the movie before that, we're playing Nintendo and we're in a video game, we're on a broomstick, and I'm just like, how did we get here? How? The audience had
Yep.
grown up at that point, and it's almost like
Mhm.
they didn't have the understanding that instead of reverting into that dark comedy is that you should actually try to give more to the story for us that had gotten older at that point watching these films. So when New Nightmare came out, I was really curious. I was hopeful, and when I watched it, it was like it's kind of like a slap in the face in a way, kind of like, oh wow, Freddy's back. But this was so different, and it's like I never thought of this being a way you could do a story, and I really really enjoyed it. But at the same time, it took me a few years to really appreciate what the film was able to do, and what Wes
Mhm.
planned. And of course, like you said, Stephen, and you said it too, Rachel, this was that precursor to Scream. And I don't know if a lot of fans were ready for it. Obviously, it showed in its box office, like it had a lot of critical acclaim, but it was like the fans were kind of like, yeah, it was good, but I didn't expect that, and this is kind of different. This is kind of new. So I say all that to say that it took me a while to really, um, understand what Wes did with this film, and for it to be in that upper echelon of my own personal ranking of the franchise. For me, It Factor, it's a fun film. I like it. It's not my favorite Elm Street film though, and I can be honest enough to say that. I would give it a 3.5 for the overall it factor. Okay, Steven, what do you think?
Oh, I mean, like you said, where we left off with, bed knobs and broomsticks.
Oh,
you
that's
know,
great. Oh,
I mean,
wow.
I just keep looking to see if I see Dick Van Dyke somewhere in the corner.
God, that was
So,
great, man.
Oh, dear.
Can I
I
say
mean,
something? Did that just come off the top of your head, or did you plan
yeah,
that one?
no, it just came up, just popped in my head right
Hey,
now.
look, that's a deep cut. If people know what you're talking about when you say bed knobs and broomsticks, then you know they're of a certain ilk and
That's
generation.
exactly right. If everyone watching, if you know, you know, you know. And if you don't know, Google it. But yeah, man. So having gone from where we were there, and then to me, and I think I said this at the beginning, this is, and I know it's an entity. I get all that. We've talked about it, but still, it's in the shape of Freddy Krueger. So I'm taking this as Freddy. And Wes brought Freddy back. Look how he changed the look. I think it's a darker look. It's a scarier face to me anyway. And I think that the it factor for me was we're not doing this nonsense. Like Wes is like, no, we're taking the kids' stuff and we're putting it up in the toy box, and I'm making a nightmare movie. And so the reason I think the it factor is high for me is because it had been so long, dude. Honestly, since Dream Warriors, that I felt like we really had a legit quote Freddy, and in the form of what Wes originally created in Nightmare 1, which always is going to be my top anyway. That's period. But I think the it factor for this, I'm gonna go. What was yours, Night? I forgot.
I went with a 3.5.
3.5. Okay, we're close. I'm gonna go with an it factor of 4 for me, because I think that this version of Freddy is far more intimidating, far more serious. And even if he says a line here and there, that's kind of has the humor a little bit, but Wes didn't get crazy with it and put him on a microphone on a comedy store, for stand-up comedy. So this Wes knew how to do it to me the right way, the right mix, and I thought he brought it in this movie. So 4.0.
All right, Rachel, how about you?
This movie is actually quite high up for me. I love New Nightmare. It's actually my favorite Nightmare sequel. Nothing will ever beat the original, but this is my second favorite of the franchise. And I had a slightly different experience to you guys. Like, I didn't watch these movies in order. I was too young. I mean, I wasn't even born when the first one came out. So my first Freddy movie was actually Freddy versus Jason. That's how I was introduced to Freddy
Lord.
Krueger.
Wow.
I know. And then I
welcome.
just kind of watched all the movies all over the place. So for me, it wasn't that whole thing of like the quality has dropped and now it's gotten better. It was just like, oh, this is another Freddy movie that I'm going to watch. But for me, there are so many factors in this that make it like that bring the it factor. I mean, the fact that it's Wes Craven, who is one of my favorite directors, not just in horror, just in general. The fact that he wrote the script as well. The fact that it brings back Heather Leathercamp. That's not right. I'm thinking of Texas Chainsaw.
Neil will appreciate that.
Yeah, he will.
Oh dear, Heather Langenkamp. And I've talked about this before on this channel as well, but I'm one of those weird horror fans that actually prefers 90s horror to 80s horror. So the fact that it's a nightmare film in the 90s, for me, that brings the it factor up. I love that it is a different take on Freddy. I love the meta angle of it. I love the emotional pull of it. For me, the it factor for this is high. I'm going to go 4.5. It doesn't quite hit the original, so I can't give it a 5 because the original is just, so good. But no, this is my favorite Nightmare sequel. I love this one, and I rewatched this one a lot. So 4.5 for me.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
got you down 4.5. And real quick too in the chat, just to catch up with these guys. I know I'm way behind, but Jeff's coming in with another super chat, man. Thank you so much.
All right,
much appreciated, Jeff. Saying too many New Nightmare 5s for the it factor. Do you have Heather You have Robert playing the best performance. Story was good as Freddy with scary. To me, it's perfect. He's doing the text to speak, and I don't know.
Yeah. It's not coming out that great, is it?
Jeff, you're making me sound bad, man. No, I'm just joking.
Oh dear.
I think I got what you meant, man. But thank you so
Yeah.
much for the super chat.
Like he's saying, you have Heather and Robert. Just forget
Yeah.
do. It's you have Heather and Robert playing the best performances. Story was good.
Yeah.
Freddie was scary. To me, it's perfect.
There you go.
He gives it a 5.
So
We got you,
thank you.
Jeff. See?
Thank you so much, Jeff. We appreciate you, man. Because as I'm reading it, I'm like, what? Wait a minute. What are we doing here? Paula coming in with a 5. Thank you so much, Paula. Much love to you too. Yeah, he says, I'll apologize that you do use voice to text. Yeah.
It's all right.
It's okay.
We got it. We figured it out.
What's up, Chuck? Good to see you.
Did you just say up, Chuck?
No, I said, what's up, Chuck? Jeez, man. What are we doing?
Sorry. Back in high school. Middle school.
Right. And Neil saying Heather Leatherface. There you go. I knew he'd appreciate that. I knew it.
Thank you, Rachel. See, you get my humor. I appreciate it.
Right. Well, I got it too, but I was just like, huh? What?
Oh dear.
Jeff saying, thank you so much, Jeff, by the way. Original Nightmare, and then part 2, and then New Nightmare, and then 3 in that order for me.
Oh,
interesting.
Wow. That is
Very
interesting.
I don't know.
Interesting. Well, hey, you know
must
what?
like exploding birds. I respect that, Jeff.
Well,
evil Tweety, anyone?
Well, you know what's funny, because we've done Nightmare 2, and listen, and we not to get into that, but I will say this.
Yeah.
Robert was so good in that film.
True.
And I honestly think, and I said it in that show that we did, I honestly think that was such a great depiction of him, because he had a couple of lines, like you got the body, I got the brain, you're all my children now.
You're all my children now.
Yes, but he was so scary. He was so scary, and it was like this combination or this middle ground of 1 and 3. Right. 3 is amazing. I mean, obviously 1 is great. 3 is great as well. But I think Robert was so good in 2. Very underappreciated in my opinion. So, but anyways, Jeff, thank you so much for the super chats, man. We appreciate you. Let's do another super chat clip.
Night, before you play it, can I just ask you a question?
Sure. Yeah.
Because before we started the stream, I was searching all my files on the computer.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find it in the file. In the file, I couldn't find it anywhere.
Couldn't find it.
Do you have it in the file? I don't know if you got it, but I don't have it.
It's probably not in the file, Steven. And we'll have the guy that's going to tell us all about it. Here we go.
Here. We're fine. It is not in the file. It is not. You son of a bitch!
Come on, man. How can you not? How can you top that? Come on, man.
Hey, look, George C. Scott, who is a fantastic actor. If you guys in the chat aren't really familiar with George C. Scott, you got to get familiar with his work. He was a fantastic actor. And the emotion and the intensity that he could bring in a role was crazy. I mean, like even in something like A Christmas Carol, he was Scrooge in a version of A Christmas Carol, which I absolutely love. As a matter of fact, I watched it this year, as I do every year. He just had this intensity. Like I could almost imagine if you had the chance to meet him, that you almost feel like you'd melt in his presence because he's just so intense. But he was so good. He was so good. And it is not in the file, Steven.
It's not in the file. I'll quit looking.
It's not. Oh gosh. All right. Hey, look, Jeff said exploding birds inside. It was pretty good. I admit I kind of could have done without that part in the movie. All right, there you go.
Right. Fair enough, Jeff. Fair enough.
Yeah, that bird, bro, was. I remember.
I don't know what that was about. What did we do?
Here's the thing. Here's the thing, and we talked about it in the show we did for Nightmare 2. I also talked about it in my Why You Hate of Nightmare 2. Originally, the idea was going to be a demonic bird, and that was going to be part of the nightmare of it. Is that this bird transformed into something that was so otherworldly? I saw the picture of it. It looked pretty scary, but I guess once they tried to use it, it just wasn't working right.
Yeah.
So they were running out of time. They didn't have any money. They had someone who worked on that thing for a long time. So they're like, well, what can we do? And they just figured to use the bird and to just have it explode. It's just like, wow, man. Just,
Oh, that's awesome.
you gotta love it. Okay. So let's let's see what we're gonna have for our next category coming up. All right. Ooh, okay. All right. Okay, Freddy Krueger's makeup. And Steven, we're going to start with you on this. It's been a roller coaster with Freddy, his looks and designs and makeup over the course of this franchise. What do you think of his makeup in this particular movie, and what's the score? And when we talk about makeup, it's his whole outfit, so to speak. Obviously, it's a different take. What do you think about it in this movie, and what's the score you want to give it?
Yeah, I kind of alluded to it a little earlier ahead of time, but I think, like, even look at that picture. Look how friggin' sinister and evil that looks with the hat on and the way his face is done with the makeup. I think this is outside of the original. I'm going to say this is my favorite Freddy makeup. I think it's different. Wes made it stand out from all the others. With a whole different feel, the way it looks. And personally, I always have been a fan of how Wes did the look of him here. The original, of course, will always, like I say, it's on the mantle. But as far as makeup for this particular version of Freddy, I think Wes did an amazing job. The concept of it. And I love it. So I'm gonna give his Krueger makeup a 5 because it's my favorite after the original. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Rachel, how about you?
Yeah, so when I was watching this yesterday with my best friend, we were actually talking about the makeup, and I was like, I so hope we get to discuss this on the panel tomorrow. And we were saying that, like, I agree with Stephen. I think this design is really scary. I think he looks really sinister. But we were also saying that it may be, and she said something, I was like, yeah, you're right when you say this. She said it needs to look, for want of a better word, a little bit wetter. Like, if you look at the first movie, because he's supposed to be burned. So this is supposed to be like his skin and his sinew and everything coming through. And if you remember the first movie, he has that slightly more damp look, like it's blood and stuff coming through. But that being said, after we discussed this and she went home and I was thinking about my talking points, I was like, I wonder if that's been done on purpose, again, to kind of mix this whole, is it real or is it a movie? So did they make him look a bit more, movie-like, because Freddy in this is more of an entity who's using the Freddy Krueger body to come into this world. So it's not actually Dream Freddy that we're used to. Now, that being said, I love the design for his hand in this movie because we see so many close-ups of his hand, and I love that you can see the bones and you can see the sinew and you can actually see the skeletalness of the hand, and I think that makes the hand almost its own character, and it's just, there were so many great shots of just the hand and just the blades, and I'm not sure, but I think the blades are a little bit sharper and a little bit longer in this one,
more
than
pointy.
they are in the original. Yeah, and I really liked that. So while I think the face could have been a little bit better, and I definitely agree with what my friend was saying about how it needs to look a bit wetter and less like a mask, I do wonder if that was deliberate, and I love the hand. So I'm going to go with 3.5. It's not my favorite, but I do think it's a lot better than some of the other ones we've had, like Pizza Face Freddy and some of the other ones along the way. So 3.5, I think, for the makeup for this one for me.
Okay, all right. Now it's well, were you going to say something, Stephen?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I was just going to say, just to touch on what she's mentioned, it's an interesting idea to think, because this isn't really Freddy.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yes,
And I
very
thought that
true.
was a very good point you brought up. This is
Yeah.
it's not Freddy Krueger, and so this is an entity all of its own that's
Yeah.
adapted that the Freddy Krueger whatever
Right.
skin.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just think that's an interesting point you brought up. That could, I wish I knew the answer to that, but it makes sense to me if he did that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
no, I agree. I think that, I mean, and that's the thing is that you had it's a tough thing, okay, because you had to make him look different for multiple reasons. Number one, because I think Wes really wanted to kind of come back and do some interesting things with the character. He talked about that quite a bit. He talked about how he even was wondering, if the look was right. They kind of worked on the look. He also even
Hmm.
talked about the glove. He's not sure, he loved the idea of the glove, and then he was kind of pulling back on it a little bit, and so forth. But he wanted to do something different because of coming back to the franchise and trying to make a mark with this film and with Freddy as a character. But like you said, Rachel, in the movie, it's got to look different too, in theory, because this is an
Hmm.
entity that is using the body or the likeness of Freddy to be
Yes.
Yeah.
physicalized, which was interesting. Okay, now all of that thrown out the window, when I just look at him, for the makeup as it is, I think they did a hell of a job. Me and my brother have talked about this a lot. Anytime we've talked about this film or the Elm Street Freddy appearances in general, I think that they did a lot of great stuff. I love the and Wes even said he wanted Freddy to look a little bit more imposing, a little bit more
Hmm.
bulkier.
Yeah.
The coat, kind of gives him more, more physical nature. The hat is different.
Hmm.
When we look at the face, it's funny, Rachel, when you said that about making him a little bit more damp, because there are moments in the film. Now, again, I'm just looking at it as Freddy makeup. There are moments in the film where I thought the same thing, because it has a very dry look, and sometimes when he would move around, now granted, maybe this was on purpose, but you could kind of see not cracks in the scarring, but it just looked like it was more not more of a mask. But kind of, that's what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Whereas
get what you're saying.
yeah, whereas like
Hmm.
if you look at 1, 2, 3, and 4,
Yeah.
you could tell that these were things that were applied
Yeah.
to Robert's face in pieces, and they had a certain
Hmm.
organic feel, a movement to them, a fluidity
Yes.
to them.
Yes.
Um, but I still think, like you said, Stephen, he looks fantastic. He looks menacing. I love the way that he looks.
Yeah.
I love the eyes.
Mm.
Um,
Hmm.
Even the leather pants. My brother would be so happy for me to mention it. The leather pants. He's looking pimp like and all of that. Now the glove. Now this was interesting, Rachel, because I agree with you. It looks really cool. It is pointy, although there's a part of me that sometimes was like, man, I wonder, if they could have pulled back on it a little bit in its design, because it's it's supposed to look like an extension of his hand,
True. Yes.
because you can see the bone and the
Yeah.
muscle and all that. And I think it's cool, but I'm being real. You guys kind of alluded to it in some ways too. The original glove, I think the fact that it's handmade, of course, I know this is a demon, but the original glove just has something about it that even to this day it just has this essence to it, this organic feel. So although I think the glove in this one looks cool, there's that part of me that's kind of like, I'm kind of back and forth on it a little bit. So anyways, long story short, I think overall the makeup is good. And Rachel, I agree with you. I'm going to go with a 3.5 on overall the makeup. I think it looked good. I do wish it had a little bit more of a fluidity. Maybe that's the word I want to use to it, especially for his face. But he looked great. I loved the coat. I even like the look of him without the coat on. So that was really cool too. It's like he had all these
Hmm.
accessories. It's like
Yeah.
Freddy the model,
And he's been
So,
accessorizing.
yeah. Uh, Rory is saying the makeup is a 5. Scary Freddy is back. Absolutely.
Yep.
Neil saying good points there. Never really thought about that. That's why I love
Mhm.
the Nightmare Zone. Y'all all smarter than me. Yeah,
Oh,
okay, Neil.
Oh, come on now.
You're pretty damn smart with film,
I
man.
just
So
spend too much time thinking about this stuff. That's all it is.
yeah, right. All right. And for all you guys,
That's good for
go ahead.
YouTube content creators. So that's we
True,
need to
true.
we need to
That's true.
overanalyze, right?
Yes,
That's right.
absolutely.
That's true. Because we're trying to go that extra mile, right?
That's it.
That's right. That's right. And for all you guys jumping in, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And please don't forget to hit the like button. We would appreciate that as well. Okay, let's see what else we got for categories. We'll get ready to spin. We're looking for our 8th category, 8th out of 10.
Oh, we're almost
there.
due.
Nice.
Almost
We're
there.
almost there. Okay. All right. So this will be a talking point. All right. So we're going to be talking about our ideas of the best scene. Rachel, let's start with you. This is not a scored category. We're just talking about it. But what do you think is the best scene in the film?
Oh, it's really hard for me to choose. Like, I think this movie has so many great scenes and just so many moments that I love. But I'm going to pick a scene that is it's not a huge scene, but I just really love it for what it represents in the film and what it does for the film. And that is the scene where Heather goes to see Wes. First of all, seeing Wes again is just, it's so great. It's so fantastic to see him on screen and to just remember, how great he was and just, what a gift he gave us with all of his filmmaking. But I particularly love that scene because that is probably the most meta scene in the movie. And I love the explanation, or like Stephen was saying, how Wes gets his ideas from his nightmares, and he's telling Heather how he's been having these nightmares, and he just wakes up and he writes the script. And I love how he's explaining to her the demonic entity of Freddy, and he's explaining to her how the movie is starting to encroach on their lives. And I particularly love the scene where she glances over at the computer and she sees that the dialogue on the computer is the exact same dialogue that they are saying.
They just said, yes.
That moment just really hits how hard they're going for the meta. And, if you think about Heather as a character within this movie, how freaked out she must have been in that moment of the movie world encroaching into her own world. And I just think it's such a quiet, understated scene. I think Heather and Wes, you can see that they actually have great chemistry and obviously very much respect each other and, work together well. And I just think it's such a pivotal turning point for the movie, because that is the point where you really start to realize that the nightmare world is genuinely encroaching onto Heather's world, and all the things that she's been experiencing, they are real, because till that point in the movie, you can tell she's not quite sure, she's not sure what's going on with her son. She's not sure. She started to question things like, are you having nightmares? Is this happening? But this is where Wes really says, you might need to take on the mantle again. You might need to be Nancy again. This might be on you. And then the beautiful, thing was like, you were the one to take him down in the first place. And it's such a great, I think it's also a great commentary on horror films in general and the way, society thinks that horror movie fans let it encroach into our lives, and kind of that idea of like, if you watch too much horror, are you opening yourself up to whatever might be out there? So yeah, I think that scene, I mean, obviously there's lots of scenes in the movie that are bigger and are more exciting or scarier, but I just love that scene for, like I said, what it does for the movie as a whole, seeing Wes again, and it really is a turning point in the film. So that, I would say that for me is the best scene.
Okay. All right. Stephen, how about you, man?
Ooh, that is a great scene.
Yeah.
And every time I see Wes on camera, it's like, oh, it's just like a party is just like, dang, man. Just so sad that he's gone. And for me, I could easily say that scene. There's a few others, but it has to be when they're in the hospital, Dylan's in there, and Freddy appears in the room. And I mean, at one point, he's even like on the ceiling.
Yeah.
I mean, just crazy stuff. That whole sequence in that room when Freddy shows up is one of my favorites to watch. And I'm like, okay, nurse, what do you have to say now, doc?
You're
Me too. I was the exact same way. I was like, what are you going to say about this now, doctors? Huh?
Yeah, exactly. Take that, doctor.
Yep.
And but that's for right now. That I'm going to say that's to me the best scene again, I could change it tomorrow,
Yeah.
but for right now, that's what's in my mind, and I really enjoy that scene a lot.
All right. It's funny because that's actually the scene that came to my mind as well. Because, at that point in the film, there's so much desperation for Heather, and she knows time is running out, and you feel so bad for her, but you also feel so bad for Dylan. I think at that point, I'm just
No.
feeling so bad for this little
Mhm.
cute kid.
Yeah.
And Julie, as a friend and babysitter, is trying to be supportive of Dylan
Mhm.
and to Heather.
Mm.
And when they give him the medicine to help him sleep, which was so
Such a low move, wasn't
and
it?
and let me just say, and of course this is a movie, so yeah, we gotta have some fun with it. It's a horror movie, so you gotta just roll with it.
Mhm.
I was like, look, there would be some serious lawsuits going
Yep.
on if a
Yep.
nurse decided to play the okey doke with
Mhm.
someone so that they could give a shot to a little boy. I was like, oh,
I
wait a minute.
know.
Yeah, I could just imagine Wes was cracking up with that scene. But when Freddy appears, it's just such a great the only and I talked about this earlier. The only thing is that I just wish it had been a little elongated, but it was because it was such a great scene, him
Yeah.
rising up and the look on
Mhm.
Dylan's face. And of course, they're recreating the Tina scene, which
That's
again,
right.
I think
Yeah.
there were some great things it did. I don't think it was at the same level
No, no.
overall, but it was some great stuff that they did, especially because you saw Freddy. And when he's walking on the wall sideways and he comes towards the camera, of course, the meta-ness in that, but he's talking to Dylan, hey Dylan, you ever
Mhm.
play Skin the Cat? And I'm
Oh
like,
God, yeah.
I'm like, Robert, you devil. You could just
Yeah.
you almost wonder if Robert ad-libbed that because he
Yeah.
does that type of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's a fantastic scene. So I agree with you, Stephen. That scene that's a top 5, top 3 scene in the franchise for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Just
I think
because
so.
of the things that it builds up to.
Just want to say
That's
shout
right.
out to Julie. Julie is like
Yeah.
world's best nanny. Like when she's threatening the
Yes.
nurse with the syringe and she's all like, "Well, I know what's in that. Do you know what's in this?" And I just think, "Oh, girl, you are
Yeah.
like just the fact that she's so protective over Dylan, and she tries her best to be there for Heather. I mean, her death scene is great, but I'm so sad when she dies because I'm like, no, Julie's awesome.
I
We
was
like
too.
Julie.
She was
Yeah,
so innocent in this.
that
She
too.
was,
Yes.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Tina was obviously innocent in the original, but in this situation, it's like Julie, she's brought into this, as
Yeah.
as a friend and babysitter, and
Mhm.
so I felt so bad for her that she got killed. It was very sad. And
Yeah.
shout out
Yeah.
to her and to Heather, showing these nurses what's up because she punched a nurse and Heather
Yes, she
elbowed a nurse
did.
in the gut. And I'm
Mhm.
like,
Yep.
wow.
Yeah.
It's like this hospital. I've famously have said that Haddonfield has the emptiest hospital of all time. And in this particular film, they've got some of the meanest nurses of all time because
Yep. They all went to
sometimes need
Yeah.
to be put in check,
Nurse Ratchet School of Nursing. That's where they all came
right?
from.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I'm like, once you get past the one that keeps thinking it's her movies, then you got Lynn Shay. That's
Yeah.
not comforting
No,
Right.
it's not. It's
Right.
at
not.
all.
Exactly. Well, it's funny too because obviously Lynn Shay, and you guys know, absolutely love Lynn Shay, the godmother
Mhm.
of horror herself.
Mhm.
But she was cool in this movie, she was
Well,
happy
She
go lucky.
was.
but you still
You
see her and you go, "Oh no, it's Lynn Shay. What's she bringing with her this time?"
Right. Exactly. It's too funny, man. All right. Real quick too, in the chat. Let's see. I just want to catch up with these guys for a quick second. The metamorphosis of Freddy. That's a good
I
one,
love it.
Wayne. Good one, Wayne. Let's see. We got Aztec in the chat. What's up? Saying Wes Craven's
Hey.
New Nightmare is underrated as hell. It is underrated.
It is
Yes,
a bit
it
underrated,
is.
yes. Mm.
Yes,
Majorly.
absolutely. Mm-hmm. And Jeff, yeah, the
Yes.
babysitter definitely reminded us of Tina. That was definitely an homage to
Yeah.
Tina's
Mhm.
death scene, no doubt. Okay, all right, let's spin the wheel and see what we get. See if we get another scored category. We've got 3 more to go, and let's see if we get them. All right. Okay, so Rachel, we're going to start with you on this. So we're talking it now. Okay, again, just explain it, for those in the chat and also those who, watch this on replay, and especially if you're new to this series. So the idea of talking about Freddy, obviously in every film, that's what we're talking about. We understand in this film that he's actually the entity using the likeness and physicality of Freddy, but we're going to grade it just the same. So based on Freddy in this movie, what we see of Freddy in this movie, what do you think, and what's the score you want to give?
I love Freddy in this movie. It's
Mhm.
like we've talked about. We've been through silly Freddy, we've been through witch Freddy and fat cat Freddy. It's about time we came back to scary Freddy. So,
Yes.
so this is great. Look,
That's great.
I think Robert's always fantastic. He
Yes.
always brings that charisma to Freddy, but I really like that in this one he goes back to being extremely menacing. Like my friend and I, we noticed that he doesn't even really quip until the third act. Like
Mhm.
he's really a threat in this act, and I like the idea of him being like a conduit for this bigger power. It almost gives me like a Pennywise type feel, like this
Yeah.
this eldritch abomination who has existed for years and years, using this horror icon to come to life in our world. And if you're going to use any horror icon, absolutely use Freddy. He's so terrifying. And yeah,
Mhm.
no, I think he's really fun and he's really menacing. And I don't mind the new spin because it's not within the canon of the original films, because this is a different film and we're saying this is outside of that reality. I think
Mhm.
playing with Freddy and playing with his mythology, I think it works for this film because it's not in the original continuity. Now, that being
Mhm.
said, I love original Freddy from the original film as a concept. I think he's one of the
Mhm.
scariest like villain concepts ever. And so for this guy to not be the original, that just loses just a tiny bit for me. So I'm going to go with 4
Mhm.
out of 5 just because he's not Freddy, but I do think that for this movie he works very, very well, and I do like that they bring the menace back. So 4 out of 5 for me.
Okay. All right. Steven, how about you?
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 4.5 because, again, I love Dream Warriors, as you all know, but I
Mhm.
have to say, I think as far as the Freddy character, not storylines, any of the other stuff, just Freddy, this is my favorite Freddy after Nightmare 1. So
Mm.
Nightmare 1 and New Nightmare Freddy's are my favorites. And I know it's the entity. We've all put that disclaimer out
Yeah.
there. We get
Yeah.
it. But look, on the screen, he's appearing as Freddy Krueger. I'm gonna treat him like Freddy Krueger. And
Mhm.
I think, obviously Wes chose to use Freddy because that's what he wanted to do. A
Mhm.
new nightmare. Um,
Yes.
so anyway, yeah, I'm a 4.5 for me for Freddy. Loved how he, again, menacing it's the perfect word, probably, really, as Rachel said. And I think that there's not really anything I would change about him. I don't have any real complaints at all. I don't have like, oh, it was too much of this or he was too much of that. Or to
Mhm.
me, it was when humor was used, West used it in very mild doses, and it's
Yeah.
just here and there. That's it.
Mhm.
And I think it was balance was great. So 4.5, Freddy rocks a New Nightmare in my book.
Okay, all right. For me, this is an interesting one because, and again, we're putting the demon thing aside, the entity thing aside. This film, and Rachel, and I think you hit it right on the nail right in the beginning of this conversation. This film is, it's much more psychological than it is horror or even Elm Street
Mhm.
like, right?
Yeah.
Um, so but we can only grade it on that. It is what it is. It's either going to be an advantage to some folks that were maybe a little tired of the Elm Street roller coaster, or it might be that some people were thinking it was too far left. To me, I think Freddie was great in this film. I think the way they depicted him, we talked about the actual look, which I thought was really good, but the way they depicted him, he was dark, he was menacing. The only thing, and Steven, you just said it, you said the only, you didn't have anything that you would change. The only thing I would change is the fact that I wanted more of him.
Yeah,
And
right.
and and again, it is what it is. I mean, but it's a choice that they made. It's a choice that they made, and to me, because he comes in, I remember I was just watching it just the other day, and I actually looked right at my video, and I was like, okay, when does he, really appear? Like that scene with Julie, and that was
Mhm.
like basically with like 35-40 minutes left in the film, something like
Yeah.
that. So kind of like 65% into the film.
Mhm.
And I was just like, man, I just wish that they could have had more scenes of this. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that he's like standing right in front of the camera talking, but like for instance, in the original film, there was a presence that he brought, and of course that was through the nightmares. This is a little bit different, I get that, but we're just
Mhm.
calling it like it is, right down the middle. And so I just wish there was more of them. So for me, even though I thought that this was, in my opinion, probably the third best depiction of Freddy, if I look at the entire franchise, I think this is like in third place. I don't think it's, well, actually, I might have to think about that, but it's definitely, to me, um, you know, behind the original and behind Dream Warriors. So, but I enjoyed what they
Okay.
did, and they brought him back and they made him more menacing, but I just wanted more. So I'm going to go 3.5.
Nice.
I'm going to give it a
Okay.
3.5. Okay. All right. Real quick, too, in the chat, I just want to give a shout out to our good friend Gina in the house, saying hi
Hey,
to
Gina.
everyone.
Hey, Gina.
Hope you're doing well. Thank you for being here, and Happy New Year. Of course, I know that time difference gets a little odd and so forth, but you get what I'm saying. JPEG's in the house too. What's up, JPEG? Saying there were a few jokes told by Freddy, but they came across as frightening rather than funny. Good
Yeah,
point.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yep. Very good point. I agree. And let's see. Jeff saying, I wish I could have seen Robert in the movie getting attacked by the entity Freddy. I said that a while back too. Me and my brother were talking about that.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a missed opportunity as well. They missed that opportunity in Jason Goes to Hell as well, because you had Kane Hodder in it. Now,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Jason killed him, but they didn't show it, and of course, it wasn't really Jason. Shout out to my good buddy Eric. But in this film, they showed that scene with Robert talking to Heather on the phone, and he's painting that image of Freddy, which was great. It was great, and I was like, "Oh my God, wouldn't it have been so cool?" Maybe Wes thought it might have been too hammy, because
I
I could almost imagine that, like if
Yeah.
Robert had a nightmare and got attacked by the entity.
No,
Right.
I read something, and I can't remember if I heard this in a documentary, or if I read this somewhere, or if this was just a fan theory. But
Mhm.
I've heard that the reason that we don't see Freddie and Robert together is because when the entity comes in, they were saying you can't. It needs to take Robert to possess Freddie. Like they can't exist at the same time, or something like
Gotcha.
that. So yeah, again, I can't remember where I read that. I don't know if it was just a fan theory or if it was like from like a deleted script or something. But I agree that
Mhm.
that was a bit of a missed opportunity. But I also do wonder if in this film in particular, because it is a more serious film and it's got more gravitas, if it would have been too cheesy, like you said, like, having
Yeah.
Robert versus Freddy, like maybe in a previous film that would have been better, but like for this particular film, unless they
Yeah.
did it very well, it might have been a little too cheesy for a film that does feel so emotional
Mhm.
and heavy.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It might have just been a little too much, which I can respect that.
I
Yeah.
think I
I
think that's a good point. Yeah, and
Mhm.
honestly, for me, and this is just me, I don't really want to see Robert injured or attacked by Freddy because he is Freddy. It's like Robert is
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, we don't know what happened after that phone call. We don't
Right.
know.
Yep.
That's the last time we see him. But
Mhm.
Yeah.
so maybe he did end up getting, hurt, killed, or even worse. But well, not
Mhm.
getting much worse than that, I guess. But my point is, I there's a part of me that actually would have been. I don't think I want to see that because
Yeah.
Robert to me is that indestructible
Yeah.
Yeah.
person playing. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. No,
just my
I get what you
thoughts.
mean. Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah, because
Yeah.
like I said, it just would have gotten a little. I don't know if it's hammy, the word I want to use, or
Right.
weird, but
Yeah.
yeah, it could have.
Campy, cheesy, something
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
yep.
It could have gone the wrong way.
It could have.
It really.
That's where. There you go.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. let's see what we get next on the wheel. We've only got a couple possibilities left. We've got 2 more
Okay.
categories to pick.
Okay.
Ooh,
Nice.
okay. Well, this will be interesting. Okay, so I start off this one. Okay. All right, now listen. So here's the thing. You've got these characters in the film. They're playing fictionalized versions of themselves. So okay, so we understand that, but I'm just gonna take them as characters in
Mhm.
a film.
Mhm.
Obviously Heather is fantastic. We've already talked about that. But when I look at all of the characters in the film, like if I look at all the characters in these other films that we've already talked about in this series, I think that obviously Julie was great. Um, Now she wasn't in, you know, a lot of the film. She was in some really key moments, and she
Mhm.
obviously had a key death. But I thought that, outside of Heather, she was a standout. Dr. Hefner, I thought that, she was a great foil. And, like we've all said, we wanted to really, see Freddie, take care of her. It was great seeing Bob Shea and Lynn
Yep.
Shea and obviously Wes. But again, those were moments that were, sprinkled in, which made sense because I think again, this whole movie, the more I talk about it, more I think about it and hearing you guys talk about it, it was such a balancing act. You know what I'm saying? Like I think it would have been so easy for Wes to have injected, Robert or himself even more into the film, but would that have kind of offset the film? You know what I'm saying? Like this is a very much a Heather story, Heather and Dylan. So that
Mhm.
worked out good. But that being said, I think that, it kind of hurt the characters overall because there's not a lot going on with them outside of Heather and Dylan. Of course, we got to think about Dylan too. As a child actor, I've said it many
Yeah.
times, when you have a child actor in the forefront of a film so much, it could make or break a movie. And I thought that, he was absolutely fantastic. But so for me, this is a tough one, man. I think I'm going to go, gosh. I mean, obviously Heather it leads this thing and helps it out. I guess I'm going to go with a 3 on this. I'm going to go with a 3 for characters overall. Rachel, what do you think?
So I get what you're saying about like there not being as many characters, but I think, and again, I know we keep coming back to like for this movie, but I do think for this movie, having the focus mostly on Heather and having her character be so pivotal and so much in the forefront, I think that worked because I think if we put too many characters in this, it would have
Mhm,
distracted from that very simple storyline of her trying to be there for her son and rescue her son. And I do
mhm,
think the characters we got, I think they worked very, very well. Like, I think that
mhm,
Robert worked that little bit that we saw of him just being kind of the enigmatic, kind of slightly mysterious, co-star of hers. And Wes is like the creator of the monster. Wes himself, almost the dream master in this. He's the one that comes in and tells her about that. And then, like we said, Julie's a great supporting character. I think until her
mhm,
husband dies, we get to see, that they have a decent relationship. He loves the kid. He loves Heather. They're
mhm.
they're well established. And yeah, I think it works really, really well. And that I think if we'd had too much of the other characters, it maybe would have crowded the story that they were trying to tell. Obviously the
Mhm.
first movie is about the group of kids, and the Dream Warriors even more so is about an ensemble cast. But I feel that this
Right.
really did work with just Heather, and because her characterization is so strong, I think that really brings it up. So characters for me, I'll go with 4 out of 5. I think they're actually
Okay.
really, really good in this one, and that they work for what they are. So 4 out of 5 for me.
Okay. All right. Steven, how about you?
Yeah, man. 4 out of 5 for me also. All the points Rachel made, I believe also I would say the same. So I'm trying to say, get my thoughts together
Mm,
because there are less characters, but if you look at the legacy characters, though, you know, I think it was a good balance because you got to have just enough new people. You have the husband, you've got the
Mhm.
babysitter,
mhm,
you've got a couple of crew effects guys, right?
mhm,
Um, you got, of course, the nurses, which the fact that you can't stand a character means they were amazing at it because
yep,
that was their job is to make you not like them.
mhm,
Um, So with just these spatterings of other um, characters, when you have John Saxon and all
Yes.
the legacy folks, I
Hmm.
think it was a good balance of new and old, and our legacy and new, should say. So, and again, I think it worked well because this really was more of a condensed story.
Hmm.
It was really about Heather and
Hmm.
Dylan and so and of course the entity. So Freddy. So anyway, I think that I was okay with it. So I'm giving it a 4. Yeah,
Okay.
I thought it was a good balance.
All right. Okay. Real quick too, in the chat to catch up with these guys. We got Sean in the house. What's going on, Sean? We got Trey in the house. Very, very cool. Jeff saying I think the characters what they give is a 4.5. Okay. All
Hmm.
right.
Okay.
Let's see. We got JPEG saying the actress who played Julie was also in an episode of Buffy. Buffy spinoff
Angel.
Angel.
Hmm.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
She was in the
Very, very
pilot
cool.
episode.
Very, very cool. Willis is going with a 5. All right.
Wow.
All right.
Interesting. Very interesting. I mean, again, I think, obviously the characters in the film, I think they all did a good job, a great job actually, and being fictionalized versions of themselves. But I'm just thinking, again, and of course Heather is fantastic, but I just don't think surrounding her, and of course they made that choice to be about Heather. So you just have to call it like it is. Just like if you have a horror movie that doesn't have a lot of kills, and you're talking about maybe the one or two that they have, you're grading it on that, but you're saying, well, there's not a lot of kills. But I just feel as though that, if, like, for instance, if Julie had more presence in the film, I think that would have helped a lot, and I think
Mhm.
also it would have made her death, although I did feel really bad about her when we, like we were talking about earlier, but I feel as though her death would have hit even harder. And who knows, maybe it would have, risen up higher to the level of Tina's death in 84. So, but yeah, they all did a great job in this film. It was a balance, to have them as these
Yeah.
fictionalized versions of themselves. Russell saying he's going with a 5. Okay.
Okay.
Wayne going with a 4, a good number and interesting at that. Okay. And we got Gritter with a channel member anniversary 3 months.
Yay.
Thank you so much,
Hey,
man. Seriously. He's going with a 5. Wow. We're getting 5s
nice.
all over the place. Very cool. But thank you so much for being here, man. We appreciate you and all your support. Seriously, 3 months. That is awesome. Very,
Hmm.
very
Yeah,
cool.
it is. That's great.
Yeah.
Hey
And
guys,
then
it's not too late to become a watcher. What's a watcher? It's a channel member or a patron of the channel, guys. Listen,
that is true.
and Knight's not giving me anything. He doesn't know I'm going to say this, but listen, this is the stream will be starting to wind down soon.
That's
So
right.
this is the perfect time to click that join button right next to subscribe. And you go right there, click it, pick your level. There's multiple levels, multiple perks you can choose from. And I think the movie fanatics level personally should be the bare minimum for you because the perks are amazing there and above.
Mhm.
And please, you can do it live now. And I know that Night, just like myself and Rachel, if you can do this live, Knight gets to congratulate you and thank you and welcome you in real time, which
That's
is
right.
so fun.
Hmm.
And we can all clap for you. The chat will clap for you. Everyone will love you and welcome you. So if you want to be a part of this, of the inner circle of this community, which trust me, you do. Once you go in, you
Hmm.
never go out. You want to be here. So click that join button. And just like you're seeing anniversaries pop up from other folks, and they're being here for a long time because you're going to stick around. It's worth it. It's worth your money. It's worth your time. And look, the level of content that Knight puts out,
Oh
and
yeah.
oh
Hmm.
my gosh,
It's
you can't.
amazing.
Yeah, no matter what level of membership, whether it's even if you do the top tier, you're getting 2 or 3 times your money's worth in content. You're going to get here that you'll get on any cable network or any streaming network.
I
All
appreciate
right.
that, man.
So I'm just, and again, he doesn't know I'm saying this. He's probably wishing I would shut up. But I'm just going to tell
No.
you, seriously, I mean this sincerely now. This is a channel that is worthy of your investment. Okay. And I can't say that of every channel on YouTube, but I can say that of this one because I
Thanks,
know this
man.
man. We are brothers, we're friends. I know the work that he goes into this channel very well. And anything you can do to support it monthly will help it continue to grow, will help encourage Knight to continue on at this amazing pace of content because he wants to make you guys happy. And the way you can show that the best is by being a channel member or a patron. And that keeps fuel in the tank, keeps the lights on, all right, Knight, helps it
That's
keep
true.
going.
It's
So
very true.
I will leave it at that, but I would encourage anyone here, please click the join button right now while we're live. Become a member, and we will celebrate your inner circle entrance.
Oh, well, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. And, you know,
You
I
bet.
feel the same way about you. And, you know,
Thank
just
you, brother.
our friendship is really special. Like I was saying, you know, for both of you earlier when we started this stream, that's how a channel and a community can be strong and continue to grow is with you guys just being so supportive and helping to, you know, it's like a team marathon. You know, we're all
Yeah,
in this together. So I appreciate that, man. That was very, very sweet of you.
very
It really
welcome,
was.
man.
And
Thank you.
100% true. Everything Steven said was true. And when I joined this community, like it was about a year ago, I have
Mhm.
never regretted. I have been on the internet for years. I have been in so many different communities. This is one of the most welcoming and sweetest and just really loveliest and most respectful. The internet can be a really horrible place. And if you're a content creator, you know that sometimes people are really awful. But
Yeah.
this place, everyone is so respectful. You can disagree, you can joke, you can, you know, have your little debates and everything. And everyone's just really lovely. So I definitely agree with everything Steven said. Knight is great. Steven is also great. You should also follow Steven's channel because his
Very
content
true.
is wonderful.
Very
So
true.
I'm just
Thank
so
you, Rachel.
grateful that you guys have let me be a part of this community. It's been so great.
It has,
Oh,
man.
it has.
We've had a lot of great times this year, and I think we're gonna have a lot of great ones coming up in the new year as well. I really do, no doubt about that.
Me too. And Rachel, you're a great part of this community too. So
Thank
you,
you.
Absolutely,
you know, not just your channel, but you as a person, you're
yes,
fantastic. And
Thank
it's
you.
always a joy, a true
it
joy to spend
is.
time with you.
You guys
It
are
is.
lovely.
Oh well, you are too. So,
Yeah.
for you guys in the chat, let's see who else we've got going on. Thank you so much, Russell. You're very kind as well, man. We appreciate the support.
Thank you, Russell.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And our good friend Neil, also with a channel member
Yeah.
anniversary.
There we
15
go.
months.
Another anniversary. Look at that. 15 months, guys. Come on.
And let me just
Yes.
say, Neil, he says, I guess my resolution this year can be add 12 to the 15.
That's a great resolution. Fantastic.
That's
I
a
love
great
it.
one.
It is.
And thank you so much, Neil. Seriously, man. I mean, you've been such a good friend for a long time, and you've been on this journey with us, and seen the ups and downs, and you've always been so supportive and just so kind as a friend and also as a fellow content creator who I absolutely enjoy personally.
Mhm.
And I just thank you for that, man. You know, I've said this before, but to say it again, you know, for you guys that are also content creators, you know, like Steven, like Rachel and Neil and others, you know, to be able to support each other the way we try to do, and to kind of be a part of the communities and so forth, that takes a lot, because as a content creator, all of us, you know, and all of you that are content creators, you put forth a lot of work into what you do, and you have to balance that with your actual personal life, your work life, your family life, and all those different things. So
That's right.
for me, it means a lot to see a content creator help to support the community in whatever way they're able to. And so, Neil, much love, man, and thank you so much. I really appreciate you, seriously. All right,
Mhm.
very cool. Um, and JPEG. Well, we'll see. You never know. You never know.
You never know.
Stranger things have happened.
Mhm.
And let's see, we got Jack coming in with a super chat. Thank you so much, man. Seriously, saying I'm I'm at the max level, literally the
Nice.
best. Knight has to time your private DMs. No matter how much you ask, you probably won't get a wrench. Love you, Knight Steven. Join today. Thank you so much, man.
Oh, thanks, Jack.
We
Right back to
appreciate you,
you.
man.
Yeah,
Yes,
buddy.
yes. We appreciate you, man. Thank you for being here too, by the way.
Mhm.
And Val, thank you for putting the link in for our channel members and also for our Patreon link. We appreciate that. Seriously.
Yes.
Thank you. Let's see. Oh, he said tolerate. That's what it was, Jack. Okay, so Knight has to tolerate your DMs.
Oh.
Oh dear.
Hey, like I said, I was saying it last night too. It is a lot to try to keep up with because there's just so
Right.
much going on. There really is, and I'm trying
Yep.
to keep up with everyone, whether it be through Twitter, Instagram, email, community tab, comments,
Mhm.
and so forth and so forth. And I have been putting this out here. I said it last night for you guys that are on Patreon. Obviously, we have the messenger chat feature. So definitely, if you get a chance and you need to have that communication, that would be a very easy way to do it. I'll put the link back into the chat too. But I'm going to try my best in 2025 to figure out an easier way to do more communication, to be, what's the word I want to use? Even more prompt, because I know that a
Mhm.
lot of folks, they have different questions and all that type of stuff. So, anyways, thank you guys for all the patience. You as well, Jack. And I know we get a chance to talk on social media, but sometimes, it's not something that we're always able to do. So much love,
That's
man.
right. That's
Much
right.
love. All right. Let's see what we get for our next category. This could be our last category, our 10th
I think this
category.
is the final one.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, and we have the possibilities, and this could be interesting as far for the final score, because it could be the mythology, it could be the atmosphere, or it could be the cinematography that we pick. Okay, so let's
Ooh.
see what we get.
Okay.
All right. Ooh.
Oh.
Ooh, okay. Ooh, this will be interesting, man. All right. Okay. So Steven, we're gonna have you start off with this category, our 10th scored category. When we're talking about atmosphere of the film, we're talking about the elements of how you feel, how the story is being crafted from A to Z. What do you think of the atmosphere that they chose to go with in this film, and what's the score you want to give it?
I think the atmosphere it's slowly stifling,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
it just as the movie progresses and it just and as things continue to happen,
Hmm.
it's very almost like it's so in the intensity. Wes just slowly amps it up,
Yeah.
little by little by little by little to bring us to the final showdown. And the whole earthquake background
Hmm.
is also very unsettling,
Yeah.
honestly. And what's interesting, and I know you guys know this, but in case anyone's watching that doesn't, all of those footages that you see, or all the footage you see of earthquake damage
Hmm.
was actually real from when
Right.
the earthquakes had just happened around there.
Hmm.
And so those are some of those news shots, all those images,
Hmm.
real damage. Those aren't sets. And anyway, beside the point, but I think the atmosphere is very creepy. And as we start to get into this movie and we understand what's happening, Wes, everyone, it gets creepy. Like when Rachel was talking about the computer screen, I was going to bring that up. So I'm glad you did. because when you see like literally what Wes is typing is happening, and all of that's just like, oh my gosh, what's he going to write next? So for me, I guess I'll sum my answer up by saying I think the overall atmosphere is very is stifling. I hope that makes sense, because you've got Dylan at the play yard, you've got anything with Dylan, I'm already like, oh gosh, I'm all tensed up, and so it just continues to grow for me when I watch it, that intensity, even when I rewatch it. So for atmosphere, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. I think it was very good, and so that's my take for atmosphere. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Rachel, how about you?
Yeah, I love the atmosphere of this film. I think, Stephen, using the word slowly stifling, that's perfect, because it really is. There is this creeping dread to this film where
There
it
you go.
starts out, and you're like, okay, things are all right. And then slowly, with every scene, it's like you just get more and more unsettled. And there are interactions that shouldn't be unsettling, but are unsettling, like her phone call with Robert, where you know that something is going on and that Robert's like not quite saying everything that he knows. And like Stephen said, any scene with the kid is just automatically just like so creepy and so intense. And again, I'm going to reference, it really does remind me of the atmosphere I get when I watch It, the original It, that slow dread. Like the presence isn't always there. Like it's not always in your face, Freddy. It's more just like you watch the film and you're like, this is very unsettling. Something is not right here. Something is definitely askew, And I think it just builds to that fantastic climax, which is so intense and so stressful and so emotional. Yeah, no, this film is fantastic. It's exactly the type of horror I love. I love that slow creeping build, atmospheric kind of till you get to the end and everything just kind of culminates. It's just done so well. So I'm going to go with a 5, because I really love watching this film, and I really love the atmosphere of it. So 5 out of 5 for me.
Okay, 5 out of 5. Okay. For me, I think that this film, what was really cool about the atmosphere was it was able, it was stifling, and it kind of got more and more present in the film as it went along, but it had those creepy little sprinklings in there, especially in the beginning, and as Heather is realizing that, hey, something is amiss, and what's going on with my son and so forth. And it was able to weave in and out of that, also with her having those moments with John Saxon and with Robert Englund and with Bob Shea, and of course with Wes. And I think it was really, really good. And again, this whole film was about trying to balance what people expected of a nightmare film, but also where Wes wanted to take us. And man, I can't imagine. I mean, I would say maybe for him it was like Easy Street, because he's just so talented like that. But like for me, in my mind, I'm just like so overwhelmed with the idea of how to balance it. And I think he did a hell of a job, even with the atmosphere. So I'm going to go with a 4 as well. I think it's got great atmosphere. It's really, really dark in moments. It has some fun moments, creepy moments throughout. Again, we've already talked about specifically Heather and Dylan as characters in the film, and it's just good. It's just really, really good all throughout. So I'm going with a 4 as well with you, Stephen. Okay. Real quick in the chat, just to catch up with these guys as we start to wind down. Now we have Anthony in the chat. Welcome to the chat, Anthony. Anthony is not a fan. He says, I can't lie, I hate this movie now. Barely any Freddy, an incredibly forced plot. At least the bad original Elm Streets, or Nightmares, I should say, had fun and charm. Very, very interesting. And I think I alluded to that earlier. This was a film when it came out, and I remember because I was so invested in if what this was going to do for the legacy of the franchise and so forth. And I remember that it did have a lot of mixed reaction from people. And again, and I've said it a couple times throughout this stream, courageous. This was a very courageous film for Wes to make, because I'm sure he was aware just as much as anyone of what he was up against. You know,
Yes.
all those other
Mhm.
films since
Mhm.
his film, or even since Dream Warriors, that was going into a certain direction, and how he had to kind of go against that. You know what I'm saying? So, all right. But well said, man, and I definitely understand what you're saying. So, all right, real quick too, in the chat, Neil, your wrench is not in the
It is
file.
not in the file.
Oh God, he cracked
There
me
you
up.
go. There you go, Neil.
That
Oh,
was
dear.
great. And we
Oh
also have
gosh.
we also have Jeff coming in. Wow, Jeff, thank you so much, man. $20 super
Ah,
chat.
Jeff.
Holy moly,
Very
man.
nice.
Jeez, happy new year to you, brother. Saying, let's see, the first time I watched your shows, I saw you and everyone in the committee was so open and welcoming to me. So I appreciate you. Good night, and Craven and Rachel and everyone in the horror community. Happy New Year. Thank you so much,
Ah,
man.
Lovely.
very
Really
welcome,
appreciate
Jeff.
that.
We
Mhm.
appreciate you, man. You're
Yep,
such a great part of our communities, our shared community here, man. It's
absolutely.
thank you for your support.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't say it any better than that, and I couldn't thank you enough, because again, and I said this last night too, and Jeff, um, you're just so supportive, you know, kind of going that extra mile, which you know, everyone can't do that, and
Right.
that's okay. But the fact that you choose to do that, you make that choice to do that, to
Hmm.
help giving memberships out to other folks, when you could easily just, you know, either not do that or just send in a super chat and get a chance to talk to us on the panel yourself. It's so selfless, and you know,
Yeah.
it's really a symbol of what this community is all about. You know, people really building relationships and friendships and trying to support each other,
Yeah.
you know, especially through tough times. And I know Jeff said that, you know, he's had tough times, and you know, he's
Oh
come
yeah.
to, yeah, and he's come to our community and the different streams that, you know, I have, or Steven or what have you,
Hmm.
and it helps. So, man, all I can say is thank you. That's all I can say. And
Yes.
you're awesome. Really are.
Absolutely. Same. I echo everything Knight said.
Yep, absolutely. And Val, thank you as well. I was just about to say this because I know we're winding down, and I know Steven, you got to get ready to get going. But Steven has his stream that'll be coming up after this, and
Yes.
Val's got the link right there. So make sure you guys get ready to head on over to Steven's channel at
Oh,
Craven Something Scary.
appreciate it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish I could be on the panel too, but I'll be
I do
heading out for
too.
work.
I know. I wish we could just
Yeah,
take the whole party over to my channel and
I know.
you
I
know.
know. I know. Jeff saying, I
Rachel,
see your
you're
comment.
welcome to join, by the way. Sorry, now I
Oh,
cut you off.
thanks.
It's okay. If
Thanks,
you'd like to,
Steven.
you just let me know.
Yeah, no, I'd be up for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rock
Cool.
on.
And
Okay.
Jeff, thank you so much. You rock, man. You rock. You really, really do.
Yes.
All right, guys. So we went through the 10 categories. Just to do a recap for anyone that's just jumping in, we talked about the directing, the final girl, the kills, the story, the dreamscape itself, the it factor, the makeup for Freddy Krueger himself, the characters, and the atmosphere. So this is going to be really interesting. The scores that we gave tonight, we're going to use those to grade the film overall, and then we're going to take the overall scores for each film in the Elm Street franchise, and that's how we are going to rank the franchise when we get to the end of this great debate series for Elm Street. So I can't wait to see how it all ends up. I'm excited. And for you guys here in the chat, thank you for hanging out. We appreciate that as well. Make sure you hit the like button if you haven't. We couldn't get to everyone's comment. I always say that to folks. And I know, Steven, you always try to tell people too that it's impossible to get to
Yeah.
everyone's comment.
It
But
is.
yeah, it is. But you know, you do have a great option
Mhm.
to continue the conversation in the comments. And you know, I'm trying. I try my best to get to the comments as much as possible. But we also have other folks in the community that like to continue the conversation there as well. And as I said earlier, we do have our messenger chat on Patreon, which you can be a part of. It's free. So, and if you'd like to continue talking, that's another way to do it as well. Okay, so thank you guys so much. If you haven't subscribed to Steven's channel or Rachel's, make sure you do that. We've had the link in the chat. We'll have it in the description. And obviously, we're going to have you guys heading over to Steven's channel in a few minutes. Steven, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it as always, man. You know that.
It was total joy, man. And I appreciate you inviting me to join for this one.
Absolutely, man. Well, you know, I know you're a big fan of a lot of the this film, but also, you know, so many elements of the movie speak to you. So I knew that this was going to be a lot of fun. And same to you as well, Rachel. As always, you know, you are always fantastic on the panel and hearing your thoughts. It like you said, this has been a really fun year, and I'm so glad that you've had the ability to be a part of what we've been doing here on both of our channels. And like I said, I can't wait to see what we do in 2025.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. This was really fun. I had a great time as always.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So there we have it, guys. We have finished the great Wes Craven's New Nightmare debate, and we will catch you guys over on Steven's channel. And as far as things here, we'll be catching you guys in a few days. So we want to make sure we say it again. Happy New Year. Make sure that you spend it with friends, family, loved ones, and maybe even people that you don't know, building new friendships and relationships. So we will catch you guys next time. And as always, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you are the Night Watch. Peace.
Bye, guys.
See ya.